Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In advance to thank you to my respectful name, Ma'am Siti Mukminatun, who has given me the opportunity to make a presentation. And thank you to my friends who I am proud of being willing to watch the video presentation of my material entitled Functional Grammar. And my group is consists myself, Krisanti Dias Ayuni, and second is Ilham Maulana, who was unable to attend today's presentation. Okay, let me start the presentation. Systemic Functional Grammar of FFG or Systemic Functional Linguistic or SFL is a model of grammar that was developed by Michael Holiday in 1960. It is part of pro-social semiotic approach to language called systemic linguistic and the system of interrelated sets of options for making meaning. The term functional indicates that the approach is concerned with meaning as opposed to formal grammar, which focused on word classic such as nouns and verbs typically without reference beyond the individual clause. And then systematic functional grammar is concerned primarily with the choices that the grammar makes available to speakers and writers. These choices relates speakers and writers' intentions to the concrete forms of a language. Traditionally, the choices are filled in terms of either the content or the structure of the language used. In FFG, language is analyzed in three different ways or strata like semantics, phonology, and lexicogrammar. And then systemic functional linguistic or SFL is a theory of language centered around the notion of language function. SFL accounts for the synthetic structure of language. It places the function of language as central or what language does and how it does it. In preference to more structural approach, we place elements of language under combination as central. And then SFO starts of social context and looks at how language both acts upon and is constrained by this social context. And a central notion is stratification such that language is analyzed in terms of four strata: context, semantics, lexicogrammar, and phonology, graphology. And first is context, concern the field, what's going on, tenor, the social roles and relationship between the participant and the model or aspects of the channel of communication like monologic or dialogic, spoken or writing, and then visual contact and etc. And then systemic semantics includes what is usually called pragmatics, like semantic is divided into three components, like ideational semantics or the proportional context, and second is interpersonal semantics on concern with speech function, exchange structure, expression or attitude, and etc. And last is textual semantics, how the text is structured as a message, like them structure, given or new and rhetorical. And three is the lexicogrammar. It's concerned the synthetic organization of words into utterances. Even here, a functional approach is taken, involving analysis of the utterance in terms of roles such as actor, agent, or medium, the mode, etc. Next is we move to for stratification of Holiday's theory. The first is discourse, needs context. The first is social culture and situation, and then second is semantics, represent in meta function like have three meaning: ideational, interpersonal, and textual. And then third is lexicogrammar, and fourth is phonology, graphology. And then the concept is the context of situation it made up of all the phenomena which affect the discourse, and in face-to-face interaction, the content of situation includes the immediate and wider environment in which the text actually occurs, like the classroom in the case of a teaching discourse, the shop or market in sales transaction, the workshop in the case of discussion about a gearbox replacement. And then the context of the culture is an intricate complex of various social phenomena involving historical and geographical settings, but also more general aspect like the field of the activity like education, medicine, provision, and of goods of service in exchange for money. Care maintenance discourse in a highly hierarchical and society may be different that which takes place in a relatively egalitarian society. And classroom discourse take place within a wider cultural context of, say, university education or secondary school education, or slightly more specifically African university education or Kenya university education. And then this discipline in question also plays a part in the context of the culture. That's a physics lecture take place within the cultural practice and traditional of the field of physics alters as well as in particular education system or institution. And language as a resource for making meaning. Language is actual use and focus on text and their context. And the context or the implication of the context and text connection, all meaning is situated and in a context of situation and in a context culture. And we move to context of situation through the use of the register variables. It feels what's going on, like activity, focus, and object focus, and then tenor, social relationship between those taking part, like status or power, or agent role, peer or hierarchy relation, and then affect have a degree of like, dislike, or naturally, and then contact frequency, duration, and intimacy or social contact. And then model how language is being used, the channel of communication is spoken or writing. Language is being used as a model of action reflection. And then next is ideational meanings about phenomena, things, what's going on, circumstance, and have a textual meaning as expressed the relation of language to its environment, verbal and non-verbal, context and situational or context, and have influenced by the field of discourse. And then interpersonal meaning, which express ideational meanings about phenomena or things, what's going on, circumstance, and a speaker's attitudes and judgment. And then textual meaning as expressed of the relation of language is to its environment, verbal and non-verbal, context and situational context influenced by tenor of discourse. And then textual meaning as express the relation of language to its environment, verbal and non-verbal, context and situational context. And then the them and cohesion influenced by the model of discourse. Next is context and text collection. Context text, semantics meaning, and lexicogrammar or wordings, the field what's going on, tenor, social relation, model, contextual coherence. The field what's going on is ideational transitivity, tenor, social relation, interpersonal mood and modality, model, contextual coherence, textual them cohesion. And then context of culture have a genre. That genre is a culturally specific text type which is results from using language, written or spoken, to help accomplish something. Let's purpose have a text distinctive, beginnings, middles, and ends, and linguistic feature. And then types of genre is first is narrative, have social function to amuse, entertain, and to deal with actual or vicarious experience in different way. And then generic structure is orientation, evaluation, complication, resolution, and reorientation. And linguistic feature is focused on specific participants, use of material process, use relation process, use temporal conjunction and temporal circumstance, and then use of past tense. And then the second is spoof, to retell even with humorous twist, and have generic structure, orientation, event, twist, and linguistic is focus on specific participant of use of the material process and circumstance of time and place, and then use of past tense. And Last is recount, to retell events for the purpose or of informing or entertaining. And gen structure is orientation, event, and reorientation. And then have a linguistic benefit for focus on specific participant, use the material process, circumstance of time and place, use of past tense, and focus on temporal sequence. And this is a representation of the model of language, have a model, context of situation, language, field, register, tenor, and genre. And in this part, we have a culture with determine the kinds of genres which are valued, and a situation that determine the specific instance of that genre, like the language choice will reflect the specific situation. Okay. And what do they mean, and why can we make meaning from them, and why do the meaning the same to everyone? The door is the real door, typical of specific era. If you are an architect, the era might interest you, symbolic or for future possibilities or close possibilities, and understood as a symbol by people in this culture, as often used as a metaphor, may be understood by other cultures. And then the man on the top, the world, is not real at all, or only symbolic for feeling good, achieving success, or may be understood by other cultures. And the dragon is representative of cultural group, and then recognized but not have a close affinity to other cultural groups, and choice to use the symbol who will be to align to this cultural group. Choice of symbol may not attract some. And next is okay. What choice are possible? What's the implication of the choice? Possible choice for the meaning, the missing word will be dependent of the context, relationship, attitude to the thing or person, and mode of communication. What is implied about what a language system has to encapsulate? The culture, what is the broad and specific context? How does the impact of the context? And genre, what is the specific purpose of the text? How it is organized to achieve this? The topic was is being discussed or written about, and the relationship about what is taking part, what is the nature of the relationship, or are their statuses and roles, and then the model, is it spoken, written, or multimodal? And then the context is shopping in a shop, Western culture, no bartering, not in furniture store because prices are low and the customer is buying multiple amounts. And what kind of the text or genre? This genre is transaction with a formulatic structure. And then what is about field? We don't know, but regardless, we can still tell a lot about this text. And then what is about field? What is, I'm sorry, who is in full or tenor? Shopkeeper and customer, and expect relationship in embed in speech functions and level of politeness. And then the mode of communication or mode face to face can be seen by shortness of utterances. And next is this is. And mode of communication, distant audience, written communication, who is involved or tenor is whether probably not an official consumer, with watchdog authority audience which may not be aware to that issue. And then what is about field, that resulting from Christmas spending. And what is about field? And then I'm sorry, what is kind of text or genre might become argument for argument of an education program. And then context, Western context, Christmas in celebrate, and we're speaking to for the oppressed is also the norm. And then this is a role of language in education according to Holiday, and knowledge is transmitted in social context through relationship like those of parents and child, our teacher, our pupil, our classmates that are defined in the value and ideology of the culture, and the words that are exchanged in this context get their meaning from activities in which they are embedded, which again are social activities with social agencies and goals. And Holiday's theories of language is a social semiotic is a very sophisticated, elaborate, extravagant, and socio-cultural theory of language, which really builds upon extends earlier theories of language and culture and language as social interaction. In sophistication is in the way Holiday specifics and semiotics of the culture and the level grammatical constitution and the level of clause. And then the additional or cognitive function of language is realized by choice of process, verb type, subjects, and objects. Choice are to do with participants, and their semantic roles and circumstance are to do with adverbial choice. And then, for example, the words which functional as process of a clause were classified traditionally as verbs, and the meaningful unit which is person or ideas or facts or utterance of or talks were directly involved in this process, and they are classified as participant in functional grammar, and they are to do with choice in subject or object roles in the clause, and the circumstance of the process were classified traditionally as adverbs. And then interpersonal function is to do the kinds of communication role chosen together with ways of assessing utility and probability. For example, our choice of giving an order in this foundation of the communication roles, speakers and writers also position themselves in relation to their statement, question, or comment by assessing utility, obligation, probability. These functions are realized by such a model as something, out, and perhaps. And the textual function of language, because word order is central of the structure of English. The first word of phrase or clause in a clause complex. In the clause or clause complex will be in the message of the clause or clause complex. The thematic organization of clauses in the foundation of organization is language into meaningful extent text, and whether those the text they're conversational or academic. And thank you. I'm sorry if I have mistake for this presentation. I hope this material can be add more knowledge for us. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.